economic sabotage, youth restiveness, and all of these are deeply entrenched in the root causes of marginalization, degradation of the environment, and so many things that, for the sake of this, we may not be able to touch. But then the realities and the things that take center of the discussions of the Niger Delta is conflict, oil politics, a host of the issues, and these are the issues we are going to be exploring while we are on this program called the Echoes of the Niger Delta, live on WAFI TV. Some of you might wonder why WAFI TV's maiden edition of the Echoes of the Niger Delta is going to be shot here in the heart of the Ijaw Nation, Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. We are going to be playing host to one of the leading contenders of the INC presidency here in Yenagoa, in the person of Professor Benjamin Okaba, to tell us what the issues are, what his plans for the presidency is, and the way forward for the Ijaw Nation. It is what we are going to be exploring on our today's program as I lead you to our guests. So I invite you all, our viewers, to join us on the journey to meet our guest in the person of Professor Benjamin Okaba as we explore the issues before us subsequently. Follow us on our social media handle at WAFI TV on Facebook, at WAFI TV on Instagram, and WAFI TV1 on Twitter. We will be there with our programs. Thank you. We are welcome to today's special and maiden edition of Echoes of the Niger Delta. I'm your host, and my name is Williams Williamu Jr. And today with me is not somebody that needs too much introduction, the person of Professor Benjamin Okaba, who presently is Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanity in the Federal University of Otueke, and one of the leading contenders of the INC Ijaw National Congress elections, presidency specifically. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, today, basically, the topic that our audience are yearning to really hear from you is basically about the presidency. What you have conceptualized over these years, because in some quarters it is argued that the forward movement of the Niger Delta is heavily relied on the forward movement of the Ijaw Nation. So looking at these arguments, how would you look at these issues of the forward movement of the Ijaw Nation as regards if you emerge as the president of INC?
Okay, thank you very much. We're happy to note that the Ijaw Nation has always been the epicenter of the Niger Delta struggle for self-determination and self-actualization. And it is not just, it is something, it's a claim that is backed by actions that were taken by our Ijaw leaders right from time immemorial. In fact, if these actions predate the existence of Nigeria. In fact, during the pre-colonial era, when there were incursions by European traders into the industrial and trading rights of our people, there were resistance. King Jaja Opobo, the Dapa people of Boni, the Akasarid were very notable efforts made by indigenous Ijaw people under their leaders to checkmate and protect the independence of the Ijaw people.
So you speak strongly of these issues. So is this what the presidency is going to represent?
Well, the presidency, one, advocacy is part of it. But before then, we have to look at the state of the INC and the Ijaw Nation. The INC was formed in 1991 as the umbrella body and the voice of the people of Ijaw Nation to defend our cause, to protect our rights and privileges, to ensure that we participate fully in the state called Nigeria, even as we pursue our goal, eventual goal of self-determination. INC at least was able to bring all the various dialects that either to saw themselves as independent, like the Okrika, the Calabaris, the Ogbeas, the PAs, the people thought they were different, but INC brought them under the same corporate organization. And that is a major achievement. But in recent times, INC has gone into tatters. There is high level of disunity, vertically or horizontally. The core values of the Jaw people, which is unity, which is truth and trust, have actually nosedived. So there's a new concept of kombo kombo bebe. Kombo kombo bebe. Everybody is on his own. You take for yourself. That collectiveness, which is part of our culture of doing things together, is no longer there. And to worsen situations, we now find ourselves betraying ourselves for peanuts, particularly at the political forum. Look at the Rivers example for something political, where the key players were not even just. The greatest, the highest form of brutality was experienced in Joland. In fact, about 23 persons died as a result of the last election. In Ijoland, in Rivers State. In other places, there are no even casualties. So these are issues that we need to address. One, we have to resuscitate our core values. We have to be united. We have to also build synergy amongst all our bodies, particularly the IYC. The IYC is also, in fact, for now, having 2 leaders. And if we don't take care of that before these elections, before their next elections, they will still have, they might even more polarized.
Sir, talking about our core values, that is the core value of the Jaw people.
Yes.
People have, from our investigation and from our conversations over time with people have defined the core values of the Jaw people to mean different things. To some, it means truth. To some, it means, individual benefits from, parading the name and trying to get what they should. So, how would all of these razzmatazz for the presidency and for a new leadership in INC, especially, being a contender, of this very prized position?
The issue is that we must say no to what is not right. Individualism is not right. It just yes, Republicans, and at the same time we believe in collectivism. In fact, it's a well-known fact that it just marry together. When I say marrying together, if somebody wants to marry, right, and if you want to marry, people contribute.
Yes.
Right? Even in those days when you want to put up a building, right, people contribute. Yes. The youth bodies will gather and generate mud, build the house together. In fact, when they're going to fishing camps, they go and build fishing camps together, age groups, right? If it's your turn to beach a fishing camp, they go there and put the structures to it with the age group. We marry together, we fight together, we play together, we even conduct our burials together. So individualism is alien to our culture. Yes, materialism is something that is coming with modernism. But cultures that are great, nations that are great, that are forward-looking, for instance, the high-profile world economies, the Asian tigers and all that, the first thing they do when they realized they were backward was to rejuvenate their cultural values of believing in themselves. So if the Jaw nation must move forward, we must go back to our originality, which is truth. It just stands for truth. A Jaw man will stand for truth and die for truth. It just don't sell each other. It just don't betray each other. So moving forward, we must see ourselves as one. Nobody is a slave, no Ijoma is a slave to another Ijaw person. Or we are all equal, but we give respect to elders, we give respect to traditional rulers, we give respect to people in high positions, particularly those who are ready to use their positions in the interest of everybody.
Yes, Prof. For the sake of our audience,
yes.
I know that a lot of them are already itching, to hear from you on your own objective, as to what it is, because generally we've been talking on what some of them may think or may have an idea of as to what the Ijaw Nation stands for, the historical values and all of that. But then the nitty-gritty would be that what would be your objective once you...
Okay, my mission is a very simple one, is to return the INC to its original state, which is the founding father, what the founding fathers of the INC envisaged for us. I say masses, I want to underline the word masses.
Masses.
Ijaw people in the creeks, in the urban centers, poor, old women, everybody. It's a masses organized social-cultural organization. It's not a political organization. It's not an economic outfit. It's a social-cultural organization with a capacity to promote our cultural values, with a capacity to protect our interests, to defend us, to stand as that fearless voice, to advocate for resource control, to advocate for better livelihood.
So the idea would be to return it back to glory.
Yes. To the INC glory is lost. We want to bring it back, and bringing it back is to trace its root, and that root is to understand the original purpose. INC is not a government parastatal. It's an association, a social-cultural association of the Ijaw people, and the Article 2 states very clearly about the supremacy of the INC constitution over everybody.
Notwithstanding status.
No status. Everybody is equal before the INC. Yes, if you are rich, make your contribution. If you are poor, you can also contribute. If you are a chief, you have your contributions to make. If you cannot contribute by way of funds, you can contribute by way of ideas. So it is an organization for everybody, and people in vantage positions must still take advantage of that.
Okay, Prof. And now I think by now our audience are really interested to know. Basically, you said something about all of the evaluations points towards returning INC to what the original plan was, which is more from what you've said,
mass participation, mass participation, mass funding.
Okay.
When for instance, when INC started.
So my question would be that what are the strategies of engagement you use to deploy this objective of returning back?
Thank you very. First of all, we have to. Because you have to, first of all, look at a platform. Look at the ideological disposition, which is collectivism. The first thing to do is to strengthen collective participation and ownership. And that can come by us, because in the Constitution, registering. There should be registration of members. It's just about 15 to 20 million. And if every adult Ijaw man pays annually 1,000, that is enormous resources. That 1,000 qualifies you as a member. That 1,000 qualifies you to contribute. This is to seek for accountability and stewardship of whoever that is managing the resources. The advantage of that over what we have today, where there's so much state funding, is that the INC will now be self-propelling. INC will define its objectives and programs and take them headlong without somebody telling us this is how you go, or this person must be your leader, right? This is a preferred candidate. No, that is an aberration. It is all happening because we are...
Okay, so there are issues of preferred candidates.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's new.
For instance, it's all over the place that the governor of Bayelsa State, with his state cabinet, visited Warri and announced that he preferred a particular candidate and all that. And some of us felt that the governor, as an individual, has his right of choice, but as a governor, he's a governor of everybody. At that point, all the contestants should be his people. This is not the first time a governor is conducting elections. We had governors in the past, from the days of Alamesia, who also conducted elections. And we know what we saw then was that the government only provided the needs of the Eleko. Silva did the same thing. Jonathan did the same thing.
So, sir, I would want to stop you there, sir. Well, you know, my worry, you know, about what you just raised, I think it's of great concern to our audience as well. Yes. Is this verified?
I said it's in the news.
Oh, it's in the news.
Yes, this thing happened on Monday.
On Monday.
On Monday, Warri, I can tell you exactly. It was in DB Hotels. The venue around from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. This event happened. It's verifiable. I've just given you the name of the day, yes. The day, the date, the venue, and the time. Right? So what I'm trying to say is that, in the first place, people are free.
Does this not in any form, you know, affect the credibility of what is to happen?
Well, like I said, I'm not condemning anything.
Okay.
I'm only observing that this will have been the best thing to do. I'm not condemning. He has his reasons and entitled to his reasons. But I'm just telling you that under normal circumstances, that should not happen, right? That shouldn't have happened under normal circumstances, and that is why we need to own the INC. This is what has happened because ownership is not in the people, right? Ownership is not in the hands of the people. When ownership is returned to the people will fund their elections. The people will fund their activities. The people will choose. Because when we say a preferred and all that, because I'm sure if opportunities is given, they might just go ahead to declare. Because, for instance, maybe for one of the issues we should also raise is that I was even called to step down.
Oh, okay. This is getting interesting.
Yes, I was called to step down, and I said, "Why should I step down in the first place?"
By whom, sir?
The governor asked me. I'm calling to be specific. The governor asked me to step down.
The governor of
Bayelsa State.
Bayelsa State.
Yes, asked me to step down. That they have anointed a candidate. That I should step down. In fact, and I should be the spokesperson, right? So I said, in the first place. I don't see any reason why I should step down, because by the Eleko guidelines and what have you, I'm eminently qualified, right? I've met all the conditions set by Eleko, and that if there were issues of age, or you must be an old person and experienced and all that, that should have been enunciated in the guidelines and constitution, so that we don't waste that. Because I've been into this business since 2015. Right? I've gone traversed the whole entire Ijaw nation, from Ondo to Eastern Obolo, right? To Arugbo, to Gelegele, to Benin, every part, everywhere in Nigeria where Ijaws have chapters and zones and clans. I've gone there to express myself, you know. So stepping down, was not good enough, because that would deny the electorates, right, the followers, the opportunity of even choosing who should lead them. Then secondly, I also feel that it is undemocratic. It's undemocratic.
No, Prof, I would want to ask this. Now, with all of these challenges, you know, from your statements, which is government interference, you know, anointed candidates and all of that. You know, for example, if you were to transcend all of these challenges, you know, how would you now hold, or how would you move the Ijaw National Congress, you know, away from the politics of the states? Because you know, in some quarters it has been said that the Bayelsa State government plays a central role as to what happens to INC as a predominantly just state. I don't know. How do you really, how do you demarcate it?
Yeah, for instance, you know, what we need to know is that when INC was formed, and INC existed for years without a Bayelsa state.
Okay.
There was a time there was no Bayelsa state, and there was INC. A very vibrant INC existed where there was no Bayelsa state. And I also give you another example. The Ogonis don't have a state funding. They don't have state funding. So what we want to bring into this is to externalize the struggle. My brother, we have to be outside the box. There are international agencies. There are international agencies that are ready to provide intervention. Who championed the Ogoni remediation? It's not the River State government. It's the Ogoni people in collaboration with international bodies, because they went to the EU and made their case. The INC will go out. We have the AU, the EU, there are the UNESCO, and there are several human rights and environmental protection rights agencies. In fact, there are body organizations on minority rights that are there waiting for people to send their proposals so that they can work on them. So that is how, in modern times, that is how organizations get funded. Because when politics gets into anything, in fact, in Nigeria or in Africa, if you want to spoil anything, bring politics.
Federal government and others.
Let me just answer. I know where you're going. Let me answer the question.
So, right? For my audience sake,
yes.
You know, what are the new strategies you intend to employ so that maybe at your emergence, for example?
I understand the question. So let me take more. Let your question not take more of my time, right? I understand where you're going. Now, very quickly, we're going to organize what we call environmental audit.
Okay.
We are more endangered environmentally than Ogonis. But in the world we are today, if you don't say something yourself, nobody says it for you. The Ogoni problems and crises and challenges have come to receive global attention because of the efforts of the Ogoni people. Okay. It's not because of any federal government or the River State government. The Ogoni people deliberately externalized the struggle. They conducted environmental audit. They conducted a development audit. They conducted audits on their security, on the endangerment and on their livelihoods. And they went to platforms and showed clips that this is this location. This spill occurred here, and look at the level of degradation. This happened and this happened. This happened. We have not done all of that. Are you hearing me? Over the years, we say we are also degraded. You must show proof. You must have figures. We always say we are fourth largest nation. We always say we are the oil producer. Have we given account of the production level at various points? At various points, that this place will produce this. This is what we have gotten back. Look at, just go straight to, I tell you, Eastern Obolo. Eastern Obolo, we discovered that 80% of the oil production from that state, from Akwa Ibom State, is from Eastern, the Ijaw areas, right? But there are no hospitals. There are no roads. There are no good water. In fact, government has even the present government has even made it worse by taking over large expanse of land and planted coconut trees in those lands. Mechanized farming. But the processing company that will produce the products of the coconut with raw materials is sited in Ibibio land, where employment will be generated. So people are only good as producers of raw materials. So what we suffered in the hands of the federal government, even from international, in the hands of the federal government, we are suffering amongst ourselves. You get the point of it? So what we do is to tell our own story, right? That is why we are not looking at the examples of Afenifere or whoever. We are looking at world economies. Because some people say, we want to be like, no, that is not the issue. We are looking at world economies. We are looking at how we can have adequate information on oil production, gas production in our land on a daily basis, and tell them the state of degradation. Take films of pollution around the Jordan. Like I told you, we suffer more than the Ogonis, but our stories are not heard because we have not been able to tell the world what we suffer from.
We do hope that eventually all of these narratives would yield positively. But Prof, something strikes me, you know, as regards to this, the Ijaw nation. Yeah. To many, for my evaluation, we think that some people see them as warmongers, people that, you know, at every slight provocation would fight and would do all forms of violence at this time. You know, so how do you intend? What's in your plan to bring peace between ourselves, between the Ijaw nation and their neighbors?
Okay, first and foremost, they talking about characterizing the Ijaws as mongers. In fact, we have negative narrations about the Ijaw people. It's not just that. Some even go to the extent of saying that the Ijaw people have fish brain. Fish brain, they are always interested in fighting and all that. We have a plan to tell Nigerians that Ijaws are high flyers. The first naval ship that left Scotland to Nigeria was piloted by the Ijaw man, Soro. Right? We have Ijaws, the first graduate of Harvard University, African graduate of Harvard University, right? Professor Febo. The first medical doctor produced by Nigeria is an Okrika man. In fact, Jane Kennedy's award for the best essay, Jane Kennedy award for essay in Africa, was won by a man from Orua. But these are stories and facts that are not known. We are digging them out, right? To show the world that we are high flyers. We are not just the way they think they are, we are. Then on the issue of peace, first and foremost, how do we have peace? There can't be peace without justice. There can't be peace without justice. If anybody wants peace, the person must bring justice. We cannot, in the name of peace, be suffering while we're suffering from what we produce. Let me give you this example. In this country, there are 2 laws governing the management of mineral resources. And this revelation came to fore with the issuance of 600 licenses by the Zamfara state government for the mining of gold. The Petroleum Act forbids anybody from having access to any petroleum product. It's seen as economic sabotage. But in this same country, the Solid Mineral Act permits for private licensing. So while we are suffering environmental degradation, suffering no compensation, suffering all forms of hardship, suffering hazards and all that, in the same Nigeria, people are officially given licenses to become millionaires and billionaires quietly. And you are saying you want peace in the Niger Delta? You want peace in the Niger Delta? And you think these intervention agencies like NDDC, that at the end of the day, most of the heavy contracts are taken back off this way, in a country where we produce oil and gas, and oil licenses are given to people who don't even know the color of oil. The list was published of about 89 owners of oil licenses. And out of these 89, it was Lily Bricks and 2 others from the Niger Delta that are giving oil licenses. Our own oil licenses. Not granite oil licenses, not cocoa licenses. We are talking about what is produced in our own country. And you want peace. Whoever that wants peace must first of all deal with the issues of justice and equity.
Okay. Well, point taken. I think the point is not peculiar to you, that for those that want justice, for those that want peace, justice is important. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming, and just say something to round up. So
thank you very much. In addition to all of this, I have a legacy project, or some legacy projects. First and foremost, it's shameful that when you just gather in a place, they speak English. right? Our language and the other languages, at some point we're at par, but we don't have a language, common language. So I will build through what we call orthography, a common Ijaw language, so that our children will learn. Right now, we cannot take advantage of the 2004 national language policy that says that use the vernacular to teach children. We are using Igbo to teach children in Ijaw land. Because we don't have a common language, we don't have a common textbooks. My administration will build, it's this project I started before. I started the first diploma program in Ijaw land from ND when I was director. And I will take it, as president of INC, I will take it to the next level. Where our children, then we have lost it. This generation have lost it. Our children will come up, and when they gather, Ijaw language will be spoken. They have it in Igbo. Igbo is not just one dialect, but they got a Ijaw language. That is a legacy project I want to embark on. Number two, also, Ijaw does not have a common history. People are taking the Ijaw history from various perspectives. I will build and publish a composite history of Ijaw. Thirdly, I will globally advertise the Ijaw culture. We have the Seigbe Festival. We have the several ceremonies, fishing ceremony in many places. The Amasomo Festival. These things are not known, right? But to globalize them and also see them as tourist attraction, we are going to dedicate a program in the DSTV or Google. It costs only 1.5 million, where films dedicated to Ijaw culture, Ijaw history and all that will also be shown to the world. And that is another way of changing the narrative. Let them know that Ijaws are not just fighters. Let them know that Ijaws have a rich culture. Let them know that Ijaws are resourceful. Let them know that Ijaws are worthy people. Let them know that Ijaws are high flyers. In fact, I failed to mention this. The first beauty king of Africa, is an Ijaw lady, Agbani Darego, Ijaw lady. You get the point? So we are achievers, and not fighters and what you. But if you fight us, we'll fight you. It's just a resilient, and we are not afraid of that. It's important to know that the reason why people say step down for others, they say there is experience, they need clout. But I want to tell people that clout can be gotten, or experience can be gotten, but guts, the willpower and the courage which produce result is inborn. The moment today they make you the president of this country, you got clout immediately. They made Senate president, you have clout. But your functionality, the result you get depends on your guts, which is inbuilt. Clout is like a big agbada, right?
Yes.
It's not the agbada that produces the result. It's not the agbada the INC president will wear to a meeting that will produce the result. It's the guts, it's the content, and it's the character. I have the content. I'm a 15-year-old professor of the social sciences. I've followed up the history of the Niger Delta copiously, right? I've given lectures within and outside Nigeria on the Niger Delta issues. I'm author to several INC position papers. In fact, the 2004 position paper that was presented in the 2004 CANFAB, I was co-author. I was the chief rapporteur of the conference. So I have the content. You wake me up in the morning, I will tell you. And again, agility is of essence. The INC, now we are in a precarious situation. There is a crisis in Gelegele. You have INC president that will run there and say what is happening. The INC, there is a crisis over there. There is a crisis. We have INC president that can stay for meetings for 12 hours because we are talking about intellectual engagement. And more, let me tell you the last thing. The academic has not only the license to propagate message, but it also has what we call the immunity. As a professor, I have immunity to say anything I want to say.
Academic freedom.
That is the academic freedom.
Of course.
You cannot. When somebody was telling me yesterday that Professor Koko looked at the face of Atiku and said, Atiku, so you are the one causing trouble in this country. How many persons can do that? It is the academic guts. That has been passed on to us. I have it sufficiently. And that is what I'm going to put on the table in leading the INC to the next level.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much for being on our programs on Echoes of the Niger Delta on WAFI TV. Yes, this is a wrap, and To get more of this and other of our programs, follow us on Facebook at Wafi TV, follow us on Instagram at Wafi TV, and on Twitter, Wafi TV1 on Twitter, to always keep in touch with Wafi TV so that, of course, you get more of these engagements. Thank you so much for your time. Bless.
So you are the one causing trouble in this country. How many persons can do that? It is the academic gods. That has been passed on us. I have it sufficiently. And that is what I'm going to put on the table.